Be sure to check out All Things Transformers with Steve, Megatron, and TFG1 Mike.
No, that wasn't Donald Duck. That's one of our customers that calls on the phone at my job.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Steve, just start saying some stuff, because I need to make sure that the call recorder is going to pick you up. No, I mean actually fucking talk, you moron. Don't make fucking sound effects.
Wow,
Fucking cocksucker. I will fucking kill you and everything you stand for. Yes. You pathetic, insolent bastard.
If you don't stand for anything... Oh shit, I screwed that up.
Haha.
Shut up, Kevin. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. There we go. Alright.
Was that supposed to mean something?
Why don't you go suck on your rubber ducky?
You suck on your rubber ducky during podcasting. Aye. Hello and welcome to All Things Transformers, episode 54. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and joining me as always is...
Mike TFG Blanchard, hello.
Hello, and for his All Things Transformers debut is Optimus Solo.
Hello, or half of me is here.
Yes,
I feel like a handicap. No, I shouldn't piss too many people off.
It's the zombie transforming Optimus Solo.
Must have brains.
Must have Dark Energon in brain.
Yeah, that just sounds like uber fun. Anyways, how's it going, guys?
It's going.
I've had better mornings.
That's all I've heard.
That's funny.
Yes, in any case, I see, said the blind man. It's episode 39 is the last debut. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't
it's
remember that far fucking back.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's just it. Goes with the zombie theme. I'm back from the dead.
Yes, we'll get into that in a little bit. So, what have you guys got going on?
Oh, I just finished giving everybody an in-depth look of what the hell we're doing at Geekcast Radio for the next 2 years. What?
No, I don't. The only thing I've done recently is updated the Transformer Prime page at BehindTheVoiceActors.com.
Yeah.
Yes, because you have much goodness in there now, considering it's finally debuted.
Yeah, I think I should get credit because less than a few hours after it debuted, I already had all the sound clips up there and all the new pictures. So.
Well, of course you'll get the credit, duh. Dumbass.
And I'm in the process of bootlegging these to the PredaconEmpire.com site.
Nice.
From YouTube. So.
Excellent.
Yes. I'm quite pumped about that. Traffic. Yes. No blow is too low in this show. Oh.
How low? No, anyway.
But yes. Today we are discussing the first two parts of The Darkness Rising.
Yay.
Yes.
And I guess I will let you go first, Kevin, since you have the major information on it so far, and I just having watched it am still in shock of too many similarities. So I'll get into my section later when we actually discuss it.
You just want like reaction type deal?
Basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret at least between us, that I've been pretty excited about the debut of this for a long time. Just because main reason why it was because it was the first time that we were going to get Peter Cullen and Frank Welker together again, since G1. So I was pretty pumped for this going into it. I've been counting down the days, and I'm just going to say, after I watched those 2 episodes, I definitely was not disappointed. There are little things here and there that may have bugged me, or little things that I might have had a problem with, but overall, just for a first 2 episodes of a new series, it's not scaring me away. It's definitely keeping me pumped up for at least the remaining parts of this 5-part miniseries, and for the rest of the series. So I'm pretty stoked about it now. I'll get into some of the reasons why later, but overall I have a pretty good reaction to these first 2 episodes. What about you, Mike?
Well,
I know you have a few problems too, but...
Well, no, I'll get into my problems with the actual episodes later, but my initial reaction to it was, ever since Revenge of the Fallen, because that movie made so much money, regardless of the story quality of Revenge of the Fallen, regardless of what that film is, no one can deny that it made Hasbro a shit ton of money. Look how long the Revenge of the Fallen toy line went on. They're just now changing that up, obviously. And when this first hit, and I thought it was great, just like you, Kevin, thought it was great that Welker and Cullen were going to be back together again, voicing Prime and Megatron and everything else, I was still skeptical because of the fact that friggin' Orsi and Kurtzman were attached to it. Now, I will say right up front, those 2 guys can write other stuff very well. Compared to what I saw in the Transformers films, I'm sorry, they're not the Transformers fans they claim to be. At least Kurtzman isn't. Kurtzman always was the one, as far as I know, that always claimed to be this big, huge Transformers fan. So when I heard that they were attached to this, I was like, oh, great. It's going to be a fucking tie-in between Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, or Dark Moon, or whatever the fuck the new one's called. I swear, Pink Floyd needs to sue Michael Bay.
Did either one of you guys see the video? I don't know. Well, probably not, because it didn't go onto YouTube. But right before they did the 2 Prime episodes, they had 2 different half hours. One was a Hub World show that was all on Transformers Prime, and then next they had a sneak preview that had 15 minutes of G.I. Joe Renegade preview and 15 minutes of Prime preview. But in the Hub World one, they went to Orsi and Kurtzman, who were sitting at this table or whatever, and they went into them for a kind of a, I don't know, it wasn't really like an interview, it was more like a little spoof type thing, but in it, I can't remember which one said it, but they're like, oh, what's your idea? It was supposed to be kind of them brainstorming, and the one's like, let's have Megatron barf, and the other one's like, no, this isn't the movie, this has to be good.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, that was kind of funny.
Yeah. So that was my initial thinking going in, that it was going to be a tie between Revenge and Dark. And I was like, oh god, I don't mind like comic book tie-ins or prequels or in-betweens or whatever else, but a cartoon in-between. And then we found out that it's going to be based right after Exodus, or supposedly after Exodus and War for Cybertron. I was like, oh great, War for Cybertron continuity. I'm liking this now. At first, because we had only seen like a bunch of rough cut animatics, I didn't really care for the animation at first. Now, seeing the episodes, it's great. I think it's really awesome. And I'm glad it's going to be its own thing and has nothing to do with the films. Thank God. They made a really good choice with that. So I'm really stoked. I mean, from what I've seen of the 2 episodes, I'm really looking forward to it.
I couldn't stop thinking that it was a combination of look-wise, just look and feel-wise. It was like a combination of the movie look, as well as like it had Beast Wars feels to it to me.
It didn't to me, but that's because I saw more of War for Cybertron, more animated, and the movie kind of crossed between the 3.
Gotcha.
It's pretty much like what Steve just said. It's movie.
Beast Wars had a completely different 3D feel compared to
right. No,
what was displayed.
I think it wasn't necessarily like the I don't know if it was more the animation or the design, but like when they were talking to like just Megatron or they were just focusing on those guys, for some reason I just had I got a vibe from Beast Wars for some reason. But yeah, I understand that it's a little bit more of a combination of War for Cybertron in the movie, but it just had like this little Beast War-esque type feel to me.
It's probably because it's more darker, and it's probably the first actual dark series. I mean, look at this.
That's probably why.
Pretty much the first episode, somebody dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like an animated where Prime died and then was brought back. No, this was an actual, like,
death.
Cold-blooded kill.
It was like more than a death.
Yeah, it was more than a death.
Yeah, but I mean, it had more, of a Beast Wars vibe in that sense. But,
yeah, that's probably it.
And it had more of an animated feel in the sense of like how scrawny some of the characters were, and then it had Bulkhead on top of it. Granted, it was a darker version of Bulkhead, more of a adult version, but he was still in there, which I would have rather seen Ironhide.
Actually, I
mean, I liked Bulkhead better in this than animated, but I would like to see like a more G1-esque Ironhide in it.
Yeah. For me, I am of the opinion now that I've seen the first 2 episodes that I love Kick-Ass Bulkhead. He's awesome. And the fact that Kevin Michael Richardson voices him, oh my god, yeah.
He did have some funny lines.
Yeah, I love that. I never, ever liked Bulkhead in animated. I just didn't. And I'm sorry if that offends people, but I just didn't like Bulkhead at all in animated. I thought he was a little wuss and a little too clumsy, and and I get that is the way he was meant to be, but this Bulkhead, this kick-ass Bulkhead is awesome.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Bulkhead so far. I didn't see the animated one, but I've only heard bad things about him, but I'm a fan of this newer one so far.
Yeah, I'll say that this Bulkhead was a lot nicer. And as far as the various other characters, Soundwave was a major letdown for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just because it sounded more like a female-esque voice with the vocoder over top, and it was just a scrawny body. Something about it just, I don't know, peeved me.
Yeah. Well, the female voice, though, to be fair, that's just a replay of RC.
Yeah, that's true.
That was him playing the transmission from RC, so it wasn't necessarily his voice, so we're kind of left not knowing if he can talk or if he can only replay other people's voices.
Which would be kind of lame, considering they've already impaired Bumblebee, like they did in the films, which I wish they would have actually given him a voice.
Yeah, we have R2-D2.
Give Prime a mouthpiece. Like, they tried to pull a Beast Wars-esque thing there.
Yeah.
It would have looked better with the mouthpiece if they would have left the top and bottom part like they did Primal of the mouth faceplate.
Yeah. His face just looks weird.
That's why it looks weird, is because you're expecting to see something there that's not there.
I mean, the faceplate itself, the original,
it looks movie-ish.
Well, he looks like if you took the actual helmet off, he looks like he could be like some weird ass bad looking like freak.
Robots.
The faceplate is movie-ish, but his face overall, I think the problem is the problem that I have with it is that his mouth movements just look weird, and I think it's because under the faceplate, his whole face, his mouth, his nose, or whatever else, it's like freaking, Builder White or Stark White. It's not gray or anything like that. I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. I mean, that's the only real complaint I have about Optimus is his mouth. Just the way that they've got his mouth moving is just weird. As far as Beast Wars influences, where I kind of got it was the way that the city or whatever the terrain is, as far as the 3D animation with the characters interacting with the environment, I kind of got that like from what Beast Wars was in the beginning. Kind of like when Cheetor ran across the field, Steve.
Yeah.
And like Beast Wars Part 1, the very first episode. That's where I kind of got Beast Wars from, is more the environment rather than the actual characters.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that.
That might have been what it might have been a combination of the environments plus the darker tone that just made me think it. Like I said, I couldn't pinpoint why I was thinking that, but I just kept thinking it as I was watching it. But as far as Soundwave, I agree with you as far as I'm hoping that at some point he actually gets to be able to talk. But the one thing I'm not upset about is how he looks.
I think he looks a bit too scrawny, though, to be Soundwave.
Well,
to be fair.
Not necessarily the body part, but just the actual face. I don't know if you got a close up of his face or not. But
yeah, I'm looking at him on behind the voice actors.
Yeah, like just the actual face, I think is pretty badass. I agree that he's too scrawny body wise, but I don't know. Yeah, Soundwave is probably the most disappointing as far as the fact that he didn't talk and he is a little scrawny. I think the face is his only redeeming quality.
Yeah, I'd have to say so, and I'm personally hoping that they redeem it by giving it Welker's voice.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like, granted, a more, grungier Soundwave, but have him in there. Have Welker do it.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I know there eventually will probably be more Decepticons added into the mix, but with only three main guys to begin, having one of them not talk kind of, I don't know. You only got 3 of them anyway. Like,
yeah.
at least with Bumblebee, there's 4 other Autobots to talk, so, I mean, I can somewhat deal with R2-D2 in the background, but...
That's an insult to R2. I'm sorry.
That's exactly what he sounded like.
That's what they made him sound like.
Cannot fucking stand this. This is the other major problem I have with this cartoon so far. And it's not just these episodes. I'm sure that I'll have it throughout the entire cartoon if he doesn't ever get hit of any kind of actual voice talk. Mm-hmm. Is that... this is the one thing I hate. You've got... How many voice actors have done Bumblebee in the past?
Quite a few.
Okay. Dan Gilvezan aside, because I read an interview on TFW at one point that he basically said that the people at Hasbro or whatever else want nothing to do with the old style of Bumblebee, which includes his voice, which sucks. I think that's a complete disservice to his talent and what he created in G1, but give the fucking car a voice. You have 3 kid characters. You don't need a kid robot. I know that, who was it? Somebody made the comment in the episode, it might have been Ratchet. Somebody made a snarky remark to one of the kids and said, "Oh, you can watch cartoons with Bumblebee back at the
RC, yeah,
back at base or whatever." Yeah, and I'm thinking, Bumblebee is not supposed to be an all-out kid character. Yes, he is a kid character in most parts, but don't emasculate him. That's just ridiculous.
Well, that's
kind of
what
like they just lumped him in there and just said, "All right, here you go."
Yeah. I can deal with him in the background being this mute guy or whatever for a little while, but yeah, like you said, I just hope at some point him and Soundwave get voices, but I have a feeling at least Bumblebee won't.
Yeah. RC, I can honestly say I was impressed with, just like Bulkhead as well as Ratchet, just because their designs looked fairly well. I mean, RC kept kind of a movie-ish look, whereas Ratchet went more G1 style.
Mm-hmm.
But between the two, I would have to say that I wasn't disappointed with their looks or their voices. It was a cool difference to hear between them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody should be disappointed with Ratchet's voice for the simple fact that he was the Question in Justice League. Jeffrey Combs voices Ratchet.
Yeah, but for people that don't know that,
which I didn't,
mean diddly squat.
Well, for the people that do know
I don't
that,
care who voices it to some extent. It just has to sound good with the character.
I agree.
Like you couldn't have Gary Chalk played this Optimus Prime, whereas he played all the ones in the Unicron trilogy. It wouldn't fit.
No,
that's whereas Cullen is good for it. It's these G1 vibes from certain characters that makes it so that you can have characters that sound similar to their original likeness, kind of like Ratchet and RC.
Well, right, and I mean,
and then even Bulkhead sounds similar to animated. So I mean, they're still keeping kind of true to various characters,
right?
Except for Starscream, which is my other pet peeve.
Hang on one second, because I think you and I are going to come down on the fence on that one. As far as Ratchet goes and Jeffrey Combs voicing him, the only reason why I bring up the fact that he voiced the question in Justice League was because every time Ratchet opened his mouth and said something, I kept hearing the question in my head. I kept hearing anything that the question has said in the old Justice League cartoon. So that's why I brought that up, because I thought it was so cool that because Jeffrey Combs voiced both, I'm thinking, oh, Ratchet's kind of a conspiracy theorist now. Before Steve gets into his Starscream rage, people are actually going to be shocked at this. People know that I'm not a Starscream fanboy whatsoever in any incarnation.
Anti-secret prick.
I like Skywarp and I like the Coneheads. I just don't like Starscream. But honestly, I gotta say, this Starscream I like.
I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I agree with Mike.
This Starscream I like simply because it wasn't anything that sounded like anything that has come before. It wasn't Stephen Bloom voices him, and it wasn't trying to be a copy of Chris Latta. No disrespect to him, he did an awesome job as G1 Starscream and Cobra Commander and G.I. Joe: Real American Hero. But I'm glad that they got somebody that made a distinct voice for the character, and just not some copycat trying to pander us fans for fan service.
Well, and I think one reason I like him is because I think he balanced the part of his character that's like the little, inferior bitch to Megatron, combined with the part that's really underneath it, a much stronger, sneaky, sly type character. Like, I think he balances those two things pretty well in his voice.
He does. Steve?
So I was not upset with this Starscream.
Now, see, this isn't the first time he's made his. It's been 9 years since he's been in a Transformers franchise, being Rid for 3 of the characters.
Yeah.
But I myself do not like this Starscream, and here is why.
Oh, wait a minute here. I gotta back you up on this because he was in animated.
I'm just going as far as what's on.
Are you talking about Starscream, or are you talking about Stephen Bloom?
Stephen Bloom.
Oh, okay. Well, you needed to say that.
Okay, but Mr. Technical. But anyways, I don't like Starscream, and here's why. It's because, and it's not necessarily because he doesn't sound like the original incarnations. It's I can deal with the voice. It's that there's no resemblance to anything Starscream in the design.
That's true.
The design, like, I could see if they wanted to retrofit it and not make it look G1. I can understand that. I can get past that. Like, there's been several different designs for this character. This one, I didn't know if he was a fucking crony, a drone, or what.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He is the least like any of his prior images out of all the characters.
I mean, even animated changed it up enough that you could tell who he was, but he was different.
Yeah. Every other character has at least some resemblance to either G1 or whatever that, like in Bulkhead's case, obviously animated, but all of them have some type of resemblance to G1 that you can identify the character, except for Starscream. I will give you that. It was, at some point, hard to tell if you were looking at one of the Eradicons or whatever they're going to be called, or if you were looking at Starscream.
I mean, even Soundwave looked pretty close. I mean, as far as head-wise.
Right.
You could tell who he was by the head at least, even before he started speaking and before the vocoder. But Starscream, I was completely unhappy with the design. I wish they would have taken a more, I don't know, it looks like they tried to go too much movie on this one.
Yeah, it should have been a little more War for Cybertron.
Yeah, it should have been more War for Cybertron, similar to how Megatron is portrayed, and a few of the other characters. But I mean, it's too much of a physical change that it just kind of offsets me. The voice, I'm not disappointed with it, but I wish there would have been a little bit more shrillness to it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like Lada, but I mean just something, not necessarily whiny, but something just kind of like out there with the voice.
And again, I mean, we're just giving our first impressions, so we're
I mean, granted, he hasn't had much room to stretch in this role yet, so I mean, it could come later.
Right,
But,
exactly. The other thing about the design that I find is, yes, I agree with you guys, it should have been a little bit more war for Cybertron, but the first thing I saw when I saw Starscream's model was, oh, it's animated, but it's in a different color. Because if you look at his whole head is pretty much a movie-esque design of the animated character from Transformers Animated. That's what I saw him as.
I didn't see Transformers Animated in that head. I just saw some kind of a random drone out of that. And then the only thing that could even make you think something about it is the fact that he had red on his head and he had wings and he was the only one in charge.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
That's
you're
the
right.
only thing that led me to believe it was Starscream. Other than that, I didn't know it was Starscream.
Yeah, he most resembled one of the live-action movie characters where it was just a bunch of pieces of metal just, like, thrown together, it seemed like. Which character designs do you guys like the best so far? Like, out of the Autobots and Decepticons, obviously. We're not talking about humans or anything, but just out of those main characters so far, is there one that you prefer over the rest?
Out of the Autobots and Decepticons, I'm kind of in a massive tie with certain characters.
Yeah.
Bulkhead stayed very true physically to the animated style.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, I can see that he was very well. I was kind of a fan of Ratchet just because they gave him a kind of a mixture between all of his different incarnations. And came out with this kind of badass look for him. Kind of staying similar to his older fashions. Like, he has more of a animated vibe to him. As far as like how the helmet's set up and some of the physical aspects. So I mean, in that I could tell. Right. But I like.
I agree with you. I think Ratchet's my favorite design for the Autobots.
I like I can't just what.
But as far as like Prime is exact pretty much to his movie form, so I mean I can't really say much there.
Mm.
Bumblebee, it looks like they tried to copy the Camaro, even though because they can't get the Camaro license for the cartoon, obviously. But it looks like they tried to copy that too much. Him, it's kind of like meh. And I would have to say second to Ratchet, I would like Megatron.
Yep, I'm agreeing with you on that.
The two toys I would buy should they come out.
Yeah, I definitely like Ratchet and Megatron the best, with RC probably coming up next.
For me, for the Autobots, it's Ratchet, RC, and Bulkhead. For the Decepticons, obviously, Megatron. Because Megatron most resembles War for Cybertron. I mean, there's a little bit of G1 in there, obviously, with the bucket head, but...
what do you think of the teeth?
The teeth are badass.
I know it made him look really fierce, besides the razor blade endings to his helmet.
Yeah.
Like, it had a nice G1 vibe to it, only more fierce of it.
Yeah, it was like a G1 / War for Cybertron.
Yeah, and it was much more... I love this design. I wish they would have used it in the movie.
Me too.
This would have been... I mean, considering... Look what they did with Prime. They basically just transferred him over to the cartoon. And he looks perfect. You know, I mean, Prime I wouldn't complain about. You can tell exactly what's about him. I wish they would have went a little bit more in the vibe of this Transformers Prime for the movie for the Primal... Or for Optimus Prime design. But I would say that if they would have transferred these particular designs to the movie... I think it would have had a lot better outcome as far as the visual aspects of it.
Well, yeah, because the problem with the movie half the time is you don't know what you're looking at.
Well, you don't know what you're looking at. It looks like a bunch of garbled metal, and you can't tell, even by the head or any similarities in design, who it is. Right. You know, in every incarnation of every one of these characters, they've kept certain aspects the same, so that you can identify them.
Right.
Even Bumblebee has more of a gold-buggish head to him than anything else. So, I mean, in that, you can kind of resemble him, you know, and he's yellow. But, I mean, they kept enough of certain characters the same that you could tell who's who, other than Starscream.
Yeah.
I know Kevin's gonna kill me for this. I'm not just Bumblebee anymore. I'm a gold bug.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
And that's how you'll be known as from now on.
Has there been I mean, I know we're doing this whole 5-part mini-series thing to launch the thing, but is there an actual theme to the show? Theme
A
song?
theme song?
No.
That was one thing I was disappointed in.
I wish they would have had a theme song music. I mean, that's one thing that's been even a short one, something memorable. Beast Wars had it, G1 had it, even through its 4 seasons.
Right.
Well,
They didn't even necessarily have a song, but something.
there's something on the end credits. My only thing is, and this is what my assumption is, I also watched, and I know this isn't, this is Transformers and all. Friday night, I had watched the Young Justice premiere movie on Cartoon Network. That didn't have a theme either, and I'm thinking what these TV networks are doing is when they're doing
the theme out and extending the show.
Not necessarily. What they're doing is they're teasing us with these movies and 5-part series and whatever else to get the show launched and to make sure. And obviously, Transformers Prime, now that it's aired, obviously it's going to go for at least 1 season. We don't know how much more. I know that there have been rumors that they've said they want to get it, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, but we just don't know. It depends on how well it does.
I can honestly see with what they've got going so far. I mean, granted, it's only the first 2 episodes of the 5-parter. With the story that they've got going on so far as the Dark Energon and not rehashing the Allspark, I could see it going on for at least 3 seasons.
And the other thing they have it going for it is it looks enough like the movie that they can still live off of it. Yeah, and they can ride off of the next movie when it comes out for a long time. I mean, look how long they rode off the toys for the second movie after the second movie was already come and gone. So should have some shelf life because it's not like it's going to be something where they need to move it out of the way when the movie comes out.
Oh, right. No, exactly. As far as the theme, what would you guys think of if there was someone who sung the Transformers theme, robots in disguise, all them damn lyrics, to the background of the War for Cybertron music? Would that work?
I don't think that would be bad, as long as the theme has some type of darker feel.
See, that's the thing, the War for Cybertron music, right. I don't know if you've heard it, Kevin.
Yeah, it's got that darker feel.
It has that darker feel. I would love it.
And the actual person that would be singing it wouldn't be able to sing it, obviously, like they did in G1. I mean,
right, exactly.
Pretty updated and kind of, have that same dark feel, but I wouldn't be upset with that. Or if it was just a musical theme, that I would be fine with that too, but it needs something instead of just throwing up a few of the, the producers and the whoever it was that they threw up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one thing I noticed, like, for both of them, and I actually even wrote it down. I'm like, is there no theme to this?
I'm thinking, like I said, because they're doing this 5-part miniseries, I'm thinking once the show actually fully launches, like weekly or whatever it's daily, whatever it's going to be, and we get into regular episodes, I'm sure there will be a theme. Let's
Oh, real quick before, because it's kind of the same thing we talked about at the beginning, but one thing that I did like is at the end, when they show the credits, they actually credit every single speaking role in that particular episode.
Oh, cool.
It's not a generic credit where they just throw up the same thing every episode. The credits were different for season 1 or for episode 1 and episode 2. They actually gave the bit parts on there. I mean, I had to pause it in order to write them all down for the voice actors and stuff. But like for example, even that Sierra chick that was in the one little brief part comes up in the credits, but just for that episode, not for the other one.
Right.
So I was like, that's pretty sweet. And they did the same thing for G.I. Joe Renegade, so I'm happy.
Now, let's talk about something that has long been an angst, I guess, for Transformers cartoon history. Humans.
Yeah. Humans in G1 never bugged me.
Right.
Nope.
Obviously.
Humans in the Unicron trilogy are the worst thing ever.
Yes.
Oh, yes, by far.
And so far, humans in this one, I am not annoyed with. I'm not necessarily loving them, but I'm not hating them.
I think that what's her name, Miko or Milko or whatever the hell her damn name is, the chick. I think she has a potential to be Kicker-ish if she gets too excited.
Yeah.
Because I noticed when I was watching that Jack kind of had to, tone her down a bit. But overall, I actually like these guys. They're not that
Jack
bad.
and Raph, and yeah, I think they're all three not that bad so far.
I get kind of a G1 vibe from the main male character.
Jack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see.
Do you know what I get from Raph? I get now to me Jack seems more like one of the Witwickies, obviously from G1, and Raph to me he reminds me of the kid in the wheelchair from G1.
Oh, Chip Chase.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what I got the feeling of too.
Yeah, because he's kind of the nerdy guy and a little softer spoken, and I was like, that's why maybe it's because they both remind me of the G1 humans, even though I wasn't too concerned. I'm just glad they don't annoy me.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
I did like Agent Fowler, Ernie Hudson.
Oh, I loved the voice work with that one.
That was a kind of a cool character to throw on there. It kind of touches on how Animated had
Fan Zone.
Yeah, Fan Zone.
It also touches on, and I hate to bring this up, but it also touches on the whole government thing with Revenge of the Fallen and Simmons.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, but he's a likable character.
Yeah.
So far we haven't met a human character that annoys the piss out of me.
Yeah, I can honestly agree with you on this one.
I know we're talking about the humans, but I forgot to mention when we were talking about the bots a little bit. What did you guys think of the holographic rider on RC?
I liked it. It works.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of a neat little touch, because otherwise it's like, how do you have this motorcycle going around with nobody on it?
Well, see, that's the thing, though. You're going back to Animated, and I know you haven't paid that much attention to Animated, Kevin, but
not yet.
Yeah, not yet. That comes in summer next year. But anyway, one of the first things in Animated when all the Autobots there got their alt forms, their Earth alt forms, Bumblebee snarkily asks Prowl, "Well, you're a motorcycle with no driver or rider or whatever. How is that, blending in?" And then Prowl brought up this holographic projection of a police cop on a motorcycle. Right. And that's the other thing with RC. Technically, RC is movie design, but she's animated Prowl as far as some of the rest of her design, because if you look at her and you look at Prowl, they're almost the exact same as far as
the comparison
way that their thing goes. And I don't mind the holographic thing. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I'd have to say the holographic thing doesn't bother me at all. I think that's a pretty good idea, because that goes back even as far as the G1 comics for Marvel. And they didn't have, in those comics, they didn't think about holograms. No, they had a little thing that popped out of the seat. It was like a dummy.
Oh, yeah. So it's like Men in Black 2.
Yeah, like a robo-dummy. It was kind of cool. But yeah, I'd have to say that definitely the hologram thing is pretty neat.
Yeah. I thought it was very nicely done. What about the, I've got a couple more things I just have written down. What about the Autobots having their base in the side of a mountain?
That's a nice touch to G1.
Yeah.
I thought so too. And I thought it was kind of cool the way it kind of opened and closed. Where it wasn't just like something had crashed into the thing. It was like they had actually gone in there and made it their base and had like doors that would be kind of hiding it and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was more of a Beast Wars vibe to it.
And the other thing we need to realize with that design and the way that the base is, one thing we haven't really touched on is, so far, and this is kind of based off movie, really, the Autobots have been on Earth for 3 years. So this isn't just your average retelling of G1. Like, the events of War for Cybertron have already happened. They've already landed on Earth, and they've spent 3 years on Earth.
Right.
So it's not like, the Ark goes out, the Nemesis follows, the Nemesis shoots it down, they crash land, right. 10 minutes pass, everybody wakes up. It's not that thing. It's setting up that's one thing I did like, and so far I am liking. It's setting up continuity within itself.
Yeah.
So,
and this is the first time that obviously after the 3-year absence, that they all thought the Decepticons were gone. They're learning that they're there, and then Megatron's making his reappearance. How about the ground bridge?
I like it. It's a reference to Armada, actually. I think.
At first, I was thrown off. I'm like, what is this warp thing they're going through? But once they actually called it a ground bridge, and once Ratchet kind of explained it a little bit, I was like, that's kind of a cool touch.
That ground bridge thing actually existed in RID.
Okay.
Okay.
I've seen enough of it to know.
All right. Well, that's the one place I remember it was because I've only seen the very first episode of Armada. That's the only episode I really care to see.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they've used it in there a couple times too, but
right, because the whole thing in Armada was that Optimus Prime said, "Oh, we have to go to like Japan," and they're in I don't know somewhere in the U.S. and the kid was like, "Well, how are we going to get there?" "Oh, we use a series of bridges." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So when I saw the ground bridge, I'm like, "Oh, all right, that works," because. And as Ratchet explained it, they don't have parts or something to fix to use interstellar space travel, so they can't use a space bridge.
Yeah, and that's the reason I liked the ground bridge, was because there was that explanation that we don't have the capability yet of making a space bridge, otherwise we wouldn't really be here. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like that explanation, and it also gives them a way to obviously travel around, Earth freely. So I'm kind of digging that part, and for someone that didn't recognize it from the Unicorn trilogy or from RID or whatever, I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool touch that I haven't seen before, but obviously it has been done before. But
the little cynic in me is like, the only problem is like, you got to make sure you get those coordinates just right, because if you get it off by even like a millisecond, you're going to end up in the middle of LA traffic on a freeway destroying cars.
Yeah, that's true. And I also liked that when they were talking about, I can't remember who it was, but RC or whatever, Ratchet told her to go to sickbay. I was like, Star Trek, yes. Get to sickbay. I mean, I know all kinds of different things have used that term, but I liked it.
Get decontaminated and go to sickbay.
What do we think of Zombie Cliff Jumper?
Oh my god.
That was something completely off the wall, not even thought of, and disturbing all at the same time.
That was the worst. I mean, I know Megatron blowing up, whatchamacallit, at point blank range in the movie was kind of brutal, but this was one of the most brutal deaths I think an Autobot has ever had to deal with. I mean, look at it for a second, all right?
He didn't even get to just die. No, he got brought back to die again.
But I mean, just go through his whole scenario. He gets beat up by a bunch of drones. He gets stabbed in the chest by Starscream. Then he gets freaking stabbed with the Dark Energon. Then he gets sliced in half. Then he gets thrown to the first story of the mine. Then thrown to the second story of the mine. And then freaking blown up.
I'm wondering if... Now, I noticed, I believe it was on... I think it was on the BBTA page, where it says guest stars or guest voices or whatever it is. And you guys have listed The Rock as guest voicing Cliff Jumper. Or it might have been in the credits of the actual show that I saw this, that he was just a guest voice. I'm wondering... Well, obviously they're not going to bring him back since he is dead. But I kind of wish that, they would have killed somebody else.
He was pretty cool to have The Rock in the show for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that they wouldn't be able to have The Rock that long.
Or with his whole action movie star career, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, he's got different stuff going, and he's not that experienced as far as a voice actor goes, so maybe they weren't, 100%. And I'm always, like, Cliff Jumper has always been one of my favorite characters, so I was kind of bummed that he died, but if someone's got to go out, that's the freaking way to do it.
Yeah.
And I know everyone's like, oh, he'll come back, because they explain that Dark Energon brings, has the power to revive the dead, etc. And, everyone loves The Rock, so they're like, oh, he'll be back. But I'm like, I'll actually be pissed off if they bring him back.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think they should just keep him dead.
Yeah, because otherwise it loses the effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he went out with a bang, and that's probably the best death I can think of.
Yeah.
for an Autobot. I mean, if you're going to die, you're going out fighting all the Decepticons, and then you're going to get turned to a zombie.
And then cut in half. And then blown up.
Right.
But another reason why I don't think we'll see him, because they actually put a line in there with the kids when they all three said, like the one was like robots with whatever, robots with feelings, and then Jack was the last one, and he said robots who can die.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm pretty confident that we're not going to see him again.
Yeah, we're probably not going to see him again. It was nice that, Cliff Jumper got his actual own personality and not just a repaint of Bumblebee.
And it worked with his personality being the one that was like, I don't need backup. I'm the badass, so I can do whatever I want. And it works because they didn't necessarily know the Decepticons were there yet.
Yep.
So I think it was perfectly done.
I thought it was kind of weird that it seemed, and I know it's me reading into this, and I like this a hell of a lot better than the alternative, but it was kind of weird at first for me to see that Kevin knows where I'm going with this too. It's kind of weird for me to see that supposedly he and RC had something going on.
Oh, God. Oh, I'm surprised Mike likes him at all.
And, see, there's a big difference. There is no Hot Rod in this cartoon. There is no Rodimus Prime, so it's okay. Like I said, it's better than the alternative.
Although I would love it if Springer showed up at some point.
Asshole. It's funny. It's funny. Gog Dog from TFW, I follow him on Twitter, and he was posting fake spoilers of TF Prime. And one of the spoilers was RC gets pregnant and has Springer's baby.
Nice.
Oh, God, that's funny.
What if RC had a zombie baby?
Oh, God.
What about, awesome. I know what we haven't mentioned yet. What do you guys think about the very last scene with the little, I don't even know what you want to call it, the little guy crawling off the set? The little robot, spider guy. That gets touched with the Dark Energon.
Oh, the Ratchet's tool. Yeah. That was
kind of movie-esque.
Yeah, it's movie. It's kind of like movie-esque frenzy, and it's kind of a little creepy. Steve, why don't you talk about Megatron for a bit? We haven't really touched too much on Megatron.
Steve says no.
Where did Steve go?
Well, another thing before he talks about Megatron, something that we didn't discuss yet was the fact not only that Bumblebee was like an R2-D2, but that they kind of made it seem like Raph can understand him.
I like that. It's okay.
Yeah, because when they pull up, he's like, he's not here for you, he's here for me. And he's like, how did you know? And he's like, you can understand him or whatever. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you needed somebody that could understand him. I mean, obviously the bots could understand him, but putting a human character in there that could understand it makes it easier for us to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I am so looking forward to seeing more of this series.
Yes.
Yes. Really quick, Steve, give your thoughts on Megatron before we close out the show.
I think the way they introduced him with the space bridge and the whole ominous feel, and then when Starscream's giving orders and everything, and then Megatron's like, I'm back. I'm the badass. You're listening to me. And then he was going to use him as his science project, and Starscream was like, wait, we have a dead Autobot. Just kind of pawning it off. And but, Megatron being on his little powwow journey for Dark Energon from Unicron was kind of awesome, to say the least, leading that Megatron is going to be one hell of a force to be reckoned with for the rest of the saga.
The blood of Unicron.
One of the things I want to bring up before we close the show really quick is Dark Energon, because I love, again, this is kind of more for Cybertron continuity, and we didn't really get into the whole backstory that Optimus told about, but they are following War for Cybertron continuity. In the Dark Energon, Megatron says, it supposedly can revive robots or can... No. I don't think that's the case. I think that it's poison for Autobots, obviously, and it can revive and replenish Decepticons only, obviously, since it's the blood of Unicron. And I absolutely love the fact that they're using Dark Energon. That's so awesome.
And I love the fact that they alluded to, my army will come.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're going to close up here on all things Transformers. Transformers Prime. Kevin, when is it going to air again? Or when's the next?
The 29th, the first episode will re-air.
Mm-hmm.
The 30th, the second episode will re-air. And then starting with the rest of that week, we'll get the third, fourth, and fifth parts. But after that, we're going to have a little break because I haven't seen it yet on my schedule through December 10th.
Yeah, what I noticed with, and again, I'm going to cross over genres here. When I watched the Young Justice film that Cartoon Network premiered the other night, they ran ads during it saying, "Oh, the series starts in January for Young Justice." So I'm betting they'll do something. Hub will do something similar with Prime. They'll show this,
right,
and then say January, February they'll actually start the series.
Well, with the Renegades, that was only a 2-part starter. Mm-hmm. So they've already shown both parts, and then they'll replay that. But that one's starting in all earnest, like the whole season starting on December 9th or 10th. So I was hoping Transformers wouldn't have that big of a break, but we'll see. I mean, because it's a 5-parter, they could make it last a little longer.
Yeah. All right, Megatron, why don't you close the show?
And the first rule of Robot Fight Club is...
You don't talk about Robot Fight Club.
Use the Dark Energon. Replenish the Autobots. Build the Decepticons. Excellent. Yes.
This is Optimus Prime, and you're listening to All Things Transformers with Steve Megatron and TFG1 Mike. Transform and roll out!
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo from Geekcast Radio Network's The Telecast, coming to you with an important message about our Listener's Choice episode. That's right, for the first time in Geekcast Radio Network history, we are giving you, the listener, a chance to choose the topic in one of our shows. This is how you can cast your vote for what the topic should be. Head on over to geekcastradio.com and click on the Telecast tab at the top of the page. Once there, you can find our complete Season 1 schedule with all 35 episodes. Please look this over, because we would hate for you to cast your vote for a show that is already on our schedule. Once you've done this, just scroll to the section titled Listener's Choice and click on the Comments button. All that's left for you to do now is to cast your vote through a comment. For example, you might say, "Hey, I see that Nick Arcade is not in your Season 1 lineup, so I'd like to cast a vote for Nick Arcade to be the Listener's Choice episode." It's that simple, so please go cast your vote for your favorite show, and stay tuned for episode 34 to see which show becomes our very first Listener's Choice. That does it for now. This has been Optimus Solo from The Telecast. Hey everybody, it's Optimus Solo from Geekcast Radio Network's new show, The Telecast, with some important information on our theme song contest. The rules for this contest are pretty simple. In Season 1 of The Telecast, we will be covering 33 classic kids shows from the 80s and 90s. Obviously, all of these shows had theme songs, which sometimes can be the most memorable part of a show. This contest is going to test your memory on those theme songs. How is that, you may ask? Well, because we have taken 32 of those classic theme songs and smashed them into one 3-minute clip. Your job is to identify the order in which these 32 shows appear in that 3-minute clip. Also, you must be able to identify which one of the 33 shows was left out of the clip. Some of the shows should be fairly easy for you to identify, while others may be a bit trickier. For a list of all of the shows in Season 1 and more information on the contest, visit the Telecast page at geekcastradio.com. Also, remember to tune in to every episode of the Telecast, because each episode will contain that show's theme song in its entirety at the beginning of the show, as well as the 3-minute contest song towards the end of the show. This has been Optimus Solo from the Telecast saying good luck and happy listening.
You are listening to All Things Transformers. Maximals, maximize! Yes.
I wish to speak to my lawyer.